Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Florida Sound Archive podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Kaiser, and for today's episode, you'll notice if you are a longtime Florida Sound Archive listener that I have a return guest, not a one-time, not a two-time, but a three-time returning guest, Oscar Herrera. Welcome in, my friend. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me on such short notice too. Proud
Well,
to be number three.
yes. Well, it's great to have you on the podcast again, but this is for a very special reason because you are putting out your first solo album.
Right, correct. Right, and I wanted to use this format, your program, to talk about it and promote it because it seems we all us guys that come on these shows and ladies, we talk about our musical past and things that we've gone to, all the like I said, the archives. So this one I think is looking backwards and looking forward at the same time.
Yes. And this is a new album called Songs for the Fallen Mountain King. So
Yeah.
I imagine this has been something that you have had on your mind for some time.
Actually, in 2017, when we did the Miami Punk Rock School that Richard Shelter put together, that reunion with Flynn's and Cameo and all that, John Tovar, who was alive at the time, and I had spoken about doing this record because he was looking for what he call, I guess, legacy artist, local legacy artist, and he wanted to put out an album. He had always wanted to do something with me because I worked with him at different stages with different bands all through my musical career. And so we had talked about doing this. And back then, the 10 songs that are on this record are the 10 songs that I wanted to do. He had a financial backer. The financial backer had some health issues. I think he had a heart attack. The whole thing fell through. And then, of course, John passed away last year. And then I retired from regular work in late April of last year. And I had been retired from music for 20 years. And I said, now's the time to do this. And so I threw myself back into it. I've been working on it since May of last year. And it's finally done.
20 years is a long time to be away. So anything that you did to help get yourself ready to get back in the game?
Just throw myself into it. The advantage now, which I wish I had had back then, like with the Sleep of Reason and Halo, is social media, everything you can do with computers, how fast you can do this recording. Had we done this the old-fashioned way back in the day, this recording would cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, just being in a studio. But we weren't in a studio. It was all done digitally, computer, most of it, the instruments were live, but the recording was done digitally at a house, something we couldn't have done way back when.
And for those checking this episode out who may not be as familiar with you and your
Uh,
history, can you give them a quick history lesson as to some of the bands you played in over the years and your contributions to music in Florida?
Yeah, in the early to mid 80s, I was in a band called The Sleep of Reason. I guess now people would call it goth. We didn't call it goth back then, but it was post-rock, very Bauhausy, Curie. We had a very good following for about 2 or 3 years. We used to play all the local clubs, including Flynn's on the Beach. That band broke up in 85. Later, 97, there was a Project Records out of, they're in New York now. No, actually in Portland, released a live version of the Sleep of Reason studio songs and then live songs. Later on in the 90s, I had a band called Halo that was a local rock band, all original. Every band I've ever been with has been original. And then in the mid to late 90s, it was El Duende, which was a Latin rock band. And then I gave it up for good in 2002. I had been doing that for like 20 years and gave it up for good. And raise kids, which I've been doing all along. Now I'm a three-time grandfather, and so now grandpa's ready to rock again.
And you also did a lot of repairing of vintage stereo and audio
Oh
equipment.
yeah. I have a business called Spin Alley Radios and Phonograph, restoring phonographs and records, vintage tube phonographs and radios and wind-up record players, that kind of thing. So I've been doing that a lot since 2008.
And there happens to be a vintage phonograph on the album art for the
That's
new
right.
record.
One of my pieces from my
I
house.
was going to ask, I was thinking that it could be from your private collection.
It's an Edison from 1907. Yeah, and it works in perfect condition.
Very cool. Awesome. So it wasn't just a prop, it actually does work.
Yeah.
Good deal, man. So it's great to have
Oh,
you.
I don't know. I could forget. I was also a member of Black Tape for a Blue Girl. So I was since the foundation of Black Tape, but the first album it came out in '86 till I think like about 2002. I was the main male singer. And then there were different female singers. My daughter and I actually did an album together in 2016. So yeah, that was a big part of my musical career.
And your daughter's also on your new album, right?
Yeah, my daughter and my son, both of them.
Wow.
Yeah, family
Very
affair,
cool. It
like a partridge
is.
family.
It is. So that, I mean, that's fantastic. And we're going to get into each of the songs from the album. This is going to be one of those episodes where we're going to play clips from each of the tracks
Hmm.
and we're going to talk about each of the songs and hope that you are able to share some stories and maybe some of the behind the music
Yeah,
commentary that we look forward to when we have a episode like this, which by the way, these episodes are kind of far in between on the podcast. So when they're here,
yeah.
enjoy them because usually we do straight interviews and what have you. So this should be a lot of fun. So I want to talk a little Oscar, a little bit about Oscar is the general ideas and the themes of this album, because when you look at the artwork itself, which we will see in just a moment, you kind of get a vibe a little bit of what might be happening as you
Hmm.
unpack each of the tracks. But tell us, what is the general theme of this record?
Okay. I actually, if you don't mind, I have a mock-up for one day when it's on vinyl of what I'm hoping it looks like. So that's the front, and these are tarot cards representing each one of the songs. And then there's a booklet that comes inside with the lyrics. So these songs represent pretty much my songwriting career for like 30 or 40 years. I mean, a lot of them go way back. The oldest one I probably wrote when I was 18. Many of them have been done by several of my bands. So that's the part about looking back, that some of them have been recorded by some of my bands like Halo, and there are new versions of those songs. But themes that come up a lot are struggles between, I guess, the holy and the evil, and the struggle between the dark and the light, things like that. Certain, that theme seems to come up a lot. It's something that I'm very interested. Also, mythology is something that comes up a lot. Greek mythology, especially, uh, the church. The struggle with the church. So even though it's not a concept album, there are certain concepts that come out and they give a mood. The type of record that I've always enjoyed growing up were albums that you felt that you had traveled throughout an album, that you felt like you had visited different places because they have different sounds. For example, Night at the Opera by Queen, Captain Fantastic by Elton John, the White Album by the Beatles, that takes you on a journey. That you feel like you've gone through a journey. So that was the main thrust of this record, and then it brings in all pretty much every music I like. There's bits of classical, there's bits of jazz, there's bits of glitter, there's rock, there's flamenco. It's just a hodgepodge, but all with a theme running through it.
Right. And I did get that vibe as I was listening to it. Every song seemed to connect with the
Hmm.
other song, almost like this storybook unfolding.
Right.
And I'm excited to play some of these clips, and of course, excited for people to hear the record because it's a very awesome listen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome stuff. So it's really great to hear about some of the concept and ideas behind the record. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people that were behind the making of this record, because there were a lot of people that were involved, and
Yes.
I love that a lot of them were homegrown from South Florida, from
Right.
Miami,
Right.
what have you. But then you have
Yep.
others that might have been from outside of Florida. So tell us, who was behind the making of this album?
The main musical architect for this record was my friend George Berkowitz, who was the drummer and co-producer and engineer. We recorded all the basic tracks at his home. He was the drummer in my band El Duende, which we were together till 2002. So he's really the manic genius that was behind the putting together of this record. So this record has several members of different bands that I've been in, people that I respect, and I've always said in every band that I'm in, if it weren't for these people, these songs would not sound the way they do, because I'm not a total musician. I write songs, I write lyrics, and I write melodies and simple chords, and then the rest is fleshed out. So I basically have a skeleton, they put the flesh on it. The main bass player on the songs was Greg Young, who was in The Sleep of Reason. So 40 years ago, and this is the first time we do an actual recording together, a studio recording, because the last thing we did together was live. And then Alex Sanchez is the main guitarist, electric guitarist, and he was a member of Halo. On two of the tracks is Joe Rodriguez, who was bass player for Halo. So that's the main band. Aside from that, we started using these two services called SoundBetter and Fiverr, which you can hire musicians from anywhere around the world to play. So we have a three-piece horn section from Buenos Aires, Argentina. We have a mandolin player from Buenos Aires. We have a flamenco guitarist from Medellin, California. We have a soul singer from Nashville. And this was all done with technology, something we couldn't, some of these people I haven't even met. So it was a bringing together of old school musicians that I'm comfortable with and admire. You know, they're all geniuses in their own right. And then musicians from outside. And then on two of the tracks, very talented string quartet from the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami. So it was, I mean, if I had to do this on stage, it would be like 30 musicians on stage to pull it off.
It does kind of have almost like that big band kind of vibe because
Yeah,
you hear all these instruments and they all have their own place in
yeah.
the music. So, for the people that you had worked with a long time ago, your former
Mhm.
bandmates, what was their reaction when you came knocking to do this?
Yeah, pretty much it's about time. George especially throughout the years would call me, hey, I have this band. Hey, I have this cover band. I was like, no, I don't do cover bands. Hey, are you gonna play music again? No, I'm done. That's it. I'm not doing it anymore. That's it. I'm finished. So I think he was very happy about it. And then, you know, with getting together with Alex, who had played guitar in Halo, it was like we had just gotten together the day before, you know, like no time had passed. And same with Greg. Last time I had seen Greg was for the reunion at Churchill's in 2017 for the Sleep of Reason reunion. But he's a bass player, a musician I've always respected. And he was always, when I do a record, he's going to be the bass player. So, you know, it was a lot of fun. It was very comfortable and, you know, a lot of laughing, a lot of fun times.
Yeah. So when you got into the studio to record some of the music, was a lot of the local musicians there to be along there with you, or how did they record their parts?
The basic acoustic guitar, scratch vocals, and drums were done at once, and then we brought in everybody else little by little. And George was the type of person that'll take a song and change it completely to how it was done originally, and always comes out better than the way it was done originally, which you'll see in some of the songs. But um, some of them, the basis of what we had recorded before, for example, with Halo, that was the inspiration, and then we would take it from there and take it to another level. But all the basic tracks were done at George's house, and then other tracks were done either in Buenos Aires or in Nashville or wherever the musician was from.
That kind of reminds me a little bit of when you were doing your vocals for Black Tape for a Blue Girl,
Yeah, yeah,
because a lot of times Sam would have musicians from all over
right,
and he would put it together. And when you listen to it, at least from an outsider's perspective, it all sounds like you were hanging out doing it together.
right, right. No, it's amazing that the songs came out sounding like we actually played them all together in the same room. That was one of my fears. Is, you know, how are we gonna pull this off? But everybody, we had so much skill and so much talent with the musicians that it sounds like they've been playing together their whole life.
Definitely. So I think we're getting close to playing some songs
Okay.
off the new album. So any last bit of commentary before we get ready to start playing track one?
Do you want to mention release date or leave that till later?
Yeah, we can talk about the release date, absolutely, and perhaps what are some platforms that it could be available on?
Okay, so it'll be released this Friday, March 1st, on all digital formats. Uh, Bandcamp, Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Pandora. It's going to be in all digital formats. So you can stream it, you can buy it. Hopefully you'll buy it. Because I have to pay back. Well, many of these musicians worked with me, but it cost a lot to get this together. But the main thing is to get the music out there. So even if you stream it on Spotify, I'll be happy, just as I know it's being played. My dream is still to have it released in a physical format on vinyl. So this is the first step.
Have you at all tossed around the idea of playing any live shows with this record?
I would be very happy to play a live show if it was in the perfect situation and we could get it to sound the way it sounds on the record. which is asking for a lot. Because I played live shows for 20 years and it's a lot of struggle, and I'm never going to do that again. Not, play in a club at 3 a.m. I'm too old and I've done that a lot. So if somebody says, "Hey, I really love this record. Here's, all this money, get all your musicians, play at this place," I'm backing it up, fine. But that's the only way. Or I do a coffee house set all by myself with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, something like that could be more of
Yeah.
like a scaled down version. But I would imagine, taking that many people out to a place to play would be a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, it
But
would have to be like a big one-time show, not something
right,
be, doing coffee houses or small clubs in Miami.
exactly. I did really like the fact that when you flash the mock-up of what it could look
Mhm.
like on vinyl, it looks pretty pretty snazzy. So
Yeah, I mean, that was my first thing is I'm a graphic designer, so I was able to design it. And the photographs were taken by very good friends of mine, Tracy and Martin. They have their own photo company. Met them a few years ago, and they're brilliant, lovely people. And they're the ones that took all the photos.
were there any outtakes from the pictures that didn't make the cut?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We spent maybe 2 hours taking photographs. There's a lot of photographs, so I'll be releasing them little by little, But yeah, there's a lot of photographs.
How did you enjoy kind of wearing the outfit that you had and kind of getting into that character, or and how much of that was a character and how much is that is just of you?
It's a little bit of both, and I enjoyed it because I've always liked dressing up, and I've always been in all the bands I was in. I was always theatrical. With Halo, especially, I used to do costume changes and hat changes, and depending on what the song was. So it was a natural to do it this way. And I've always admired bands that are theatrical. And later on, I mean, after I designed it and after I photographed it, I realized that this cover actually references two classic album covers, which I'm not going to mention what they are. So if anybody out there can guess which two classic album covers this references, I don't know what you're going to win, but I'd be impressed.
Your undying gratitude.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to look at it again because it didn't dawn on me to even consider if any other albums came to mind, but I'll have to look at it again
No,
and see.
I wasn't even thinking about it when it happened. Then after a while, I was like, oh, that must be subliminal. It came out. And now I noticed two classic album covers this references.
All right, good deal. Well, exciting stuff. Again, the album release, it'll be put out digitally, available for sale on Bandcamp on
Mhm.
March the 1st,
Yep.
2024.
Hmm.
Cool. All right, Oscar, I think it's time
Okay, let's do
to
it.
play some music off of the new album. We're going to talk about each song a bit before we get on to the next one. There
Okay.
are 10 total tracks
Hmm.
on the album, and there are some remix songs as well
Correct.
that we aren't going to play during this session, but we will talk about them a little bit
Okay.
because they are also pretty good in their own right. So we're going to go ahead and play the 10 album tracks in this episode. So we are going to go ahead and play the first track here, and this track, the title is Blood on the Moon.
Yeah.
Blood on the Moon. So that's going to be the first track we're going to play. That's exciting. So let's go ahead and get this track started here. Here we go. Blood on the Moon.
Silent, silent, they wait for me. I see them through the trees, closing, closing, closing on me, and I no longer see.
All right, that is the first track, Blood on the Moon. Oscar, The first track helps to really set the tone
Yeah.
for what listeners are perhaps going to be getting into. So talk about that first track. Why was that the first song?
Because it's so has such an epic opening, and I always think visually. So if, for example, if we ever take this live, this is a great opening song. Have visions of planets and the moon and fog, and so very theatrical. And it's a good opening song, especially with that riff. So the drummer, of course, is George. He's the drummer and percussionist on all the tracks. The guitarist is Alex, who was in Halo, and that song was actually co-written with Alex and with Joe Rodriguez, who was the bass player in Halo. That was a staple of our set. Towards the end, we never got to record it live. We did record a very rough demo, which was the basis for this version. The strings are done by Thomas Jumino, who used to go by Tom Anthony. And anybody who recorded or played down here in South Florida know who he was. He had a recording studio called Natural Sound Studio. So he was very involved with this process, this recording too. So those brilliant strings and the actual playing on their sample strings was done by him. So it all comes back, 30 years ago, and we recorded at his. Both the Halo albums were recorded at his studio. So and then, as I said before, each song is represented by a tarot card. So that's Blood on the Moon right here, and that's actually an image of my daughter. And if we get this made, there are going to be tarot cards on the inside you can punch out.
Wow.
With part of the lyrics on the back. So that's Blood on the Moon right there.
And then that is very, very intricate. I love it.
Yeah. So wanted to kick off with a bang, something epic and theatrical.
It is. it really sets the tone. And I when I was listening to it the first time, it felt like, again, like the adventure was about to begin. Like you kind of got that, you got that vibe. I got that vibe. I hope everyone else who listens to the new album gets that same feeling, or whatever feeling that works for them.
That's what we're trying to achieve, that you start listening and say, okay, we're in for something here. This is cool. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. Very cool. So we're going to go on to the next track here. And this is track number 2. And this track is titled Low.
No, not L-O.
Oh.
I-O.
I-O.
Not low, like lo and behold. I-O, like one of the moons of Jupiter.
I think sometimes when certain text is out, L's and I's can look similar.
Oh, yeah.
So okay, so I-O is I-O. Okay.
Yeah, it comes from Greek mythology, one of the moons of Jupiter. I'll explain a little after.
What I like about this track before we play it, you're not going to hear this part. We're going to cut right into where the music kicks in. But I always like songs where you can hear whether it's rain or the ocean or something like that. And it kind of sets that tone. It just kind of fades right in, and you hear that sound, and then the song kind of kicks in. So this will be a good one. Track number 2. So let's go ahead and get ready to play that. Let's play track number 2. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up here, and here we go. I-O. All right, that is a clip from I-O. It's hard not to let them keep playing, Oscar, because
I know, but it'll make people want to hear the rest of it.
Because it really unfolds like that story, because there's so much more that happens in these songs. This is literally just like a clip. It really is. It really is a clip. So talk about IO and the behind the music on that track.
Okay, IO was a song that was on Halo's debut album, Picasso Trigger is Dead. Originally, there were no horns on it. So that opening horn solo was originally played by our guitarist at the time, Vander Queiroz, who was this brilliant guitarist from Brazil. He played that melody. And I wanted to keep that melody, but I wanted it with a different flavor. So we had the saxophonist play that melody. The saxophonist, by the way, his name is Richard Rosales, and he comes up a few times on this album. Our drummer George discovered him busking in front of a Publix for money. This is what he does. And George says, you've got to hear this guy. We got to put him on the record. So we brought him in, and he ended up being the main saxophone player on several of the songs. The horn section was arranged by Doug Leibinger, who was a member of FOC, a local band in the 90s. We shared the stage a couple of times with Halo, and he did the original horn arrangement for King of Fright. I tracked him down. He's now living in California, playing music and teaching. So he did the horn arrangements on 4 of the songs. So we gave it a whole different flavor with the horns, but always honoring Vander's original guitar line. The song itself is about Io. Hades, or Jupiter, who was the god of the main chief god of in Greek mythology, had a thing for young human girls. And his wife Hera was always getting jealous. And one of them was Io. And the way that he hid her from his wife was to turn into a cow, that into a beast, a lovely beast. And so that's why the moons of Jupiter, several of them are named after these women. Europa is one of them. Io is another one. So this song is basically about obsession, about this mythology of love lost and being left, among the bones of this relationship. The tarot card for that is right there, Io. So you can see this is from the point of view of Io looking towards Jupiter, and there's the ocean.
How long did it take you to put each of those tarot cards together?
Over several weeks. I illustrated them, so I had to draw them little by little, finding references. It was that's the other thing. This project got me back into art because I used to paint and draw all the time, and I hadn't in very long, so it brought that back too.
I remember when we did our first episode, 2 years ago or however long ago that was. I remember you talking about the art piece, and I was wondering how long it had been until, before you got back into art. So would you say that the art and the music was about around the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I did work in graphic design and advertising agencies, but that's not the same thing. That's designing pages and logos and things. But actual art, probably around the same amount of time. So it's brought back both worlds.
Yeah. Well, it's great. So very cool. So one of the songs that you mentioned just a short bit ago was King of Fright, and that's the next track.
Yeah.
Track number 3. So we're going to play a clip off of King of Fright, and that should be an opportunity for us to check out a little bit of that song. So let's go ahead and bring that up. Here we go. King of Fright, track number 3. All right, that is King of Fright, track number 3. What do you think, Oscar? Third track, King of Fright. It's a good one.
Yeah, this song was also on Halo's debut, Picasso Trigger is Dead. Same horn arrangement. That was done by Doug Leibinger, who I mentioned before. At that time, he did the arrangement for us for the price of pizza. We came into the studio, and the 3 horn players, we bought them pizza, and that's all they asked for. So that's when I approached him this time and said, hey, remember that horn arrangement you did way back in 93? Do you still have that? And he sent it to me, the actual score. And then he arranged 3 other songs. And then the saxophone solo, which we didn't get to there, but that was done by the same Richard Rosales. And the soul singer you hear at the beginning, I found her through Sound Better. She lives in Nashville, Tennessee, Tamika Tyann. She was fantastic. I mean, I sent this out, and when she sent it back with her vocals on, it was like goosebumps. It's like, God, this is what I've been looking for. So my aim with this album is when you start hearing it at the beginning, the last thing you're going to think is you're going to hear her at any point on this album, because it doesn't sound like that kind of album until it comes up to this song, and suddenly, hey, this is kind of soulful, and who is that? You know? It's something unexpected, you know.
What did someone like her think of a song like that after getting a chance to hear it herself? Because she wasn't someone that was originally as connected to you as some of the other musicians were.
Oh, she loved it, and she fell into it immediately. So when she sent us back the track, it's like she understood it. She understood exactly where the song is coming from. So that's what I'm saying. If somebody wants to pay and we put a big band together, and fly her down from Nashville, and she can join us. We'll get everybody on here.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is probably the oldest song I have. I think I wrote this when I was 18. It went through 3 lyric changes. Originally, it was called "The Spy from Capri," which is really bad. And then "The King of Delight," which was about a male prostitute, which is even worse. And then it became "King of Fright," which was finally, okay, these are the lyrics.
Was it just because you kept going back to it and changing it up? Were things changing in your life that helped to modify that? Or what do you think was the cause of it?
Well, I mean, it's because I just thought the lyrics were right. The first 2 drafts. I always liked the music, but I wasn't happy with the lyrics. So finally became "King of Fright," which is about, you know, this scary dude and teasing this woman that he's with, that he's going to scare her up to like the point of terror, and then, you know, he'll save her at the end. And so it's kind of like playing with that imagery.
It's a good track, and I do like the fact that it's got that soulful vibe to it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, very cool. So, as we kind of move forward, we're going to check out track number 4. Now, track number 4 was the first track that has been released as the single, right? That one is the one available
If you
on,
pre-order, yeah, on Bandcamp.
right. It's on Bandcamp. It also has a music video, and this is the track "Father Whiskey."
Mhm.
So I imagine we're going to talk more about that when we are
Yeah.
in the commentary portion of this here. So let's get ready to listen to "Father Whiskey." I'm going to go ahead and get ready to play that a clip of track number 4, and here we go.
Some of us can still remember the year in which Father Whiskey died, under the heel of one who was astounded when he took a barmaid for his bride. The consequence was one in which we shuddered. A knife and cup are all our memories. He's giving up the blade for the other, and it ran over till the whiskey dried.
All right, that is track 4, "Father Whiskey." Now, Oscar, you kind of blew my mind a little bit before we started this here when you told me that was a Sleep of Reason song that was never recorded before.
Correct. And it was, of course, not played that way because we didn't have a string section. But yeah, it was a Sleep of Reason song. It was written in 1982. Actually was inspired by this. David Bowie, who put out this EP in 1982, sings Ball. So he was the main, and it was by Bertolt Brecht, who also wrote Three Penny Opera. So the Ballad of Ball is the first track on this. And back in 1982, I said, that is really cool. I want to write something like that. So that was kind of like the mood inspiration. So as you can hear, it's a very theatrical piece. Coming out of King of Fright, the last thing you expect is this kind of song to come up. We have 2 other versions, which are bonus tracks. This particular version was arranged by Alex Lacamoire. Alex Lacamoire is the musical director of Hamilton and In the Heights, among other things. He's a brilliant musician. But back in 1993, when I had Halo and I was 33 years old, he was my 18-year-old keyboard player for about a year. So I always wanted to do something with music with him. You know, I always felt like we needed to do something. So he agreed to arrange this, and he did it brilliantly. The string players are from the Frost School of Music, University of Miami. The first violin is Rosie Weiss, second violin, Jacques Gadway. Viola is Taylor Shea, and then Benjamin Whitman on cello. And then we also have Adam Lord playing bass clarinet. It's just a bunch of musicians. We have an accordionist from Brooklyn, we have a local guy, Aaron Lebo, who played acoustic guitar, and then Alex, my friend, on electric guitar, doing the solo, and my daughter playing the part of the barmaid. So she didn't even exist when the song was written. And so the video you're talking about is our contribution for the Tiny Desk concert, which happens every year. And there people are sending in submissions. So this is our submission. So if you want to see it, go to Oscar Herrera Music at YouTube, and you'll see we filmed that last week in my living room.
Talk about the making of the video real quick, because yes, to your point, it was filmed in your living room. So how did you get prepared to have all of these musicians in there at one time to record this?
We moved a lot of furniture. I got up real early in the morning, brought in equipment. There was a lot of stuff to move out of the way. It was 4 takes. We did it in 4 takes. So they're brilliant. They read, they're from the School of Music, so they read music. It's like that. And then for the video, Greg, who was a Sleeper Reason bass player, who is not on the actual recording, I got him to play in the video, which came out really well. And then of course Alex played the lead guitar, and then my daughter and I, we did the main vocals. So it's been getting got a lot of play, and we'll see what happens. If we win, we go to Washington, do a Tiny Desk concert.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly hope that happens. And do you remember how long it has been since the last time you actually recorded a music video?
Actual music video, the only time I actually did a music video was with the Sleeper Reason. So 1984 or 85. All the other videos we have are either television appearances or videos from live performances that I edited together. But an actual video done as a video, that was the Sleeper Reason 1985. So it's been a while.
Wow. Yeah, that goes back even further than just a 20-year hiatus from music.
Yeah.
So.
On my YouTube channel, the very first video is the Sleeper Reason Shelters Are Melting video with Greg on bass. So he spans both videos, from that first one to the latest one. He was on both of those videos. So that's pretty cool.
And one of my personal favorite Sleeper Reason songs for sure. So good stuff. So great tune, cool video. Hopefully you win. And this song again is available for you to check out on Oscar's Bandcamp and on YouTube, you said as well, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
If you search Father Whiskey, it's the only thing called Father Whiskey. So you'll be able to find it.
There you go. All right. Very good. So we're going to move on and talk about track number 5, Final Sound. So this song is going to be, we're going to talk about this one next. I'm going to play a quick clip of Final Sound, and just to give us a chance to talk more about it. And let's go ahead and get that queued up and ready to go. Here we go. Final Sound. That is our clip of Final Sound. Oscar, tell us about the behind the music of that track.
This song is actually a Sleeper Reason song. It was a regular part of our set. At that time, we had Laura on violin, so she played more or less that melody that you hear on violin, but we used to play that regularly. We first started playing that song, we were on tour in the Northeast, and we were staying at Greg's aunt's house in Rhode Island, and we were sleeping in the basement. We were just playing in the basement, and we had that music going on. So for the longest time, it was called the Rhode Island song, until I came up with lyrics for it. The lyrics it's basically post-apocalyptic lyrics, very cheery stuff. But it was always a favorite of mine and a favorite of the groups. I did an acoustic version as a demo with Sam. It was like a bonus track at one of the recording sessions for one of the Black Tape albums. I think he may have issued it as a bonus track at some point. But it's been there forever, and I've always wanted to record it. And we finally got to record it. The same string section from UM is on there. The guy playing a mandolin, his name is Nicholas Sokolek, found him through Fiverr. He's in Buenos Aires, sent him the track, sent us back that brilliant piece that he's playing with a video of him performing. It's just very, very cool, the stuff you can do with those services. So the song finally has seen the light of day.
It's taken a long time, but there it
Yeah,
is.
and on vinyl, this would be end of side one. So now you flip it over and you go on to the next side.
I like that. I got that all figured out.
Yeah.
So this is the point where you get up and
Grab your beer and turn the record over.
turn the record over. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. So yeah, very cool track. Obviously, you know, there's a lot more to it as you kind of get in. I feel like that's every track on this entire album. So, but again, we are playing just short little clips of each one, and the next track is no different in terms of it as it kind of builds up and what have you. We have track number 6, and that's Hell Before Sunrise.
Mhm.
So that's the next track we are going to check out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Hell Before Sunrise playing before you. Here we go.
When morning comes, I'll be gone on the last of the stars. So don't expect to find me.
All right, Hell Before Sunrise. Oscar, tell us, that's kind of one of the more like mellow tracks on the album, I feel like.
Yeah, the theme isn't very mellow, but the vibe is. It's very Raymond Chandler meets the devil or something, or kind of Vegas-y, especially when it builds up towards the end. That was also a Halo track on Picasso Trigger is Dead. I don't think I showed, so this would have been the tarot card for a King of Fright, and then that's for Father Whiskey, and then this is Hell Before Sunrise right here. So that deals with this devilish persona showing up in the room and saying, you know, when they come looking for me, I'll be gone. And all I'm going to leave is the dust on your bed. But it builds up into a very Vegas-y kind of slick, like, you know, the devil is like a slick huckster. And there's a brilliant saxophone solo by Richard Rosales in the middle too. On this track, Joe, the original bass player, plays again on this, you know, because I wanted to have that same flavor that he gave it. I always loved his bass line, so we brought him back for this one song. It's like the last thing he thought is that he was going to be recording this 30 years later, but the result is very good. I'm very happy with it.
The next track we're going to be listening to, Oscar, The Great Addiction.
Mhm.
This, if I had to choose a favorite song that I've listened to in the 3 times I've listened to this album so far,
Mhm.
this would be my first choice.
Cool.
I really like this song. I mean, I like them all, but this one really connected the most to me. So I'm excited to play track number 7, of course. So really to hear the backstory behind this song and all
All right.
that. So let's go ahead and give that a play. I'm going to play our next track, track number 7, The Great Addiction is coming up. So let's do it. All right, that's a clip from The Great Addiction. Sorry, I would love to play more, but then we're gonna stop it right there. So I'm thinking maybe for me, this song when it kicks in feels like it has maybe the most like maybe rock vibe to it.
Mhm.
Like I get the Sleep of Reason vibes personally when I hear this song, but tell us, a little bit more about The Great Addiction.
Yeah, this song was never a Sleeper Reason song. It may have been written around that time. It was originally kind of folksy, and it was called The Gray Addiction, and then I changed it to The Great. I was part of Halo's set towards the end of, or when we were together, and it was done as a blues, very bluesy number. But then George completely changed it, and so he came up with that brilliant drum pattern and the rhythm. That the vocals on that, which we didn't hear right now, but the vocals on that were done not on the professional recording mic that we did everything else, but on a demo mic that we were using, and I was just laying down demo vocals. And the demo vocals that I laid down, that was one take, and we said, we're not touching it. That's it. We're keeping that. And I did two different vocals slightly off from each other, which gives it a kind of strange, addicting effect. And we said that we're leaving it like that. So that was a first take track, which I've never done in any song ever, but it just came out so close that, I'm never going to be able to repeat this. So let's just keep it the way it is. And
that's the only first track take you said on
the
that
addicted
record.
guy right there. What's that?
That's the only one take track on the entire
Yes.
album.
Well,
Wow.
for my vocals, the
For
rest
vocals.
of it, yeah, but just for the vocals, yeah.
Right.
And that's Alex playing brilliant guitar on him, because I really wanted him to shine his soloing on this one. So yeah, you're right. It's the most rockish, has horns, again, arranged by Doug Leibinger. And Alex is a woeful, painful, beautiful guitar solo.
We are at track number 8 now, and we have Flores para los Muertos. I did not do well.
Not too bad.
I did not do well in Spanish in high school, my friend. So tell us, how is it supposed to be said?
Flores para los muertos. Flowers for the dead.
I knew muertos meant dead. That I knew, but so that is our 8th track. So let's go ahead and get ready to play track number 8. And I'm not going to repeat the title again, but we'll get ready to give that one a listen. And here we go. Track number 8.
Through the quarter of specters in nights lit with neon.
All right, that is track number 8, Flores para los Muertos. All right, Oscar, tell us about that track.
That song was co-written with a very good friend of mine, Steve Sneeden. He wrote the lyrics. We wrote that song like 1989, 1990, something like that. If you go on my YouTube channel, we actually played it live on WLRN, the local radio station down here, at local National Public radio station. The two of us acoustically, just him and me. So I brought him in. That's the other voice you hear on that recording. We never recorded. This was never recorded with any band, didn't belong to any band, just him and me doing this song. And it's based on a very minor character in Streetcar Named Desire. This older woman who goes door to door selling flowers, flores para los muertos, flores, coming up to the door. So it's basically, he turned it into this young blind girl walking through the streets of New Orleans. So it's very evocative. The trumpet you hear is by Sergio Wagner, who played trumpet on the other horns. And the piano is a friend of George's called Juan Estrada. Juan Estrada? Yeah. Just again, make sure, yeah. Juan Estrada. So he played the piano on that. And of course, Greg on bass and George on drums. And it's probably the mellowest song. So it's right in the center of side 2, kind of dividing the moods.
And I imagine you had other songs you may have considered or perhaps could have chosen from, because you were looking back on songs that you had recorded many years ago. So
Right.
How exactly did you decide on which of these songs you wanted to bring to life on this album?
Songs, in the case of songs like Father Whiskey and Final Son, those are songs that I always loved. two of my favorites that I've written and had never got recorded. I said, okay, now's the time. Now we have to do this. This is the time. And then the other songs, the ones that had been recorded before, or in the case of Blood on the Moon, that had never been recorded. But thematically, I wanted songs that fit together, move from one thing to the other, that even though they were very separate sonically, are related by themes, and fit together on a record. So it was always going to be these 10 since 2017. These are the 10 songs I always had in mind. I mean, there are other ones. I just don't think they would have fit in here.
Did you at all make any changes to any of the lyrics prior to recording them for this album?
In the last one, The Hunting Ground, I added a few little lyrics just because there was an awkward part that I was never happy with, that I tried to stretch too many syllables. So I actually put it the way it was supposed to be, but that's it. And the lyrics themselves didn't change. I just stuck in some syllables, but other than that, no, it's always been the same lyrics.
And all the themes feel somewhat timeless in a way. So I imagine that they don't necessarily perhaps reflect like maybe what you were going through per se or anything like that, but perhaps more just things you may have been reading or things you may have been watching. Is that kind of where a lot of these themes were drawn from?
Yeah, I rarely write from personal experience. I write from things that interest me and moods and the point of view of a persona, either dealing with the confusion of of faith, and dealing with things that he's been handed and doesn't want to deal with, and that kind of thing. I like darker themes. Death comes up a lot, which is kind of creepy, I guess, but what can I do? I don't know.
Muertos.
Muertos,
There you go. All right. Well, let's get into our next track here. Track number 9, When I'm Called Divine. Our next track, which I first heard when I heard the live cut from The Sleep of Reason. So here we go. Track number 9. All right, that is track 9, When I'm Called Divine. Oscar, tell us about that track.
Before I do, we're moving through these songs so quickly, I failed to mention that my daughter Danielle also sang backup on IO, and my son Adrian sang backup on Hell Before Sunrise, and he sings backup on this song, When I'm Called Divine. So this song is an old Sleep of Reason song. It was part of our set, a regular part of our set. You can hear a live version of it from a show we did in 1984 in Cocoa Beach on Spotify, but we never recorded it in a studio. So this is the most Sleep of Reason song of the whole album. I had Doug arrange some horns for it, and we put the horns on, and it just wasn't working. So we took the horns back out, and it's probably the most basic as far as a rock song, basic rock band, no flourishes, bass guitar and drums, and acoustic guitar, and Adrian and me singing. So that's one of the things I'm happy about this album, is I have both of my kids on it, which is kind of cool.
Now,
many of these songs were written. And When I'm Called Divine, this song is one of the things that I was mentioning. It's taken from the point of view of either a prophet or a savior, and he's telling his subjects, don't believe everything that I'm telling you. I've seen the other side, and but I falter like you do. So I don't want to be called divine. I want to give up these vows that I don't want to be in this position anymore. Kind of heavy stuff for rock, but there you go.
How did you decide which songs your son and daughter performed on?
On IO, the original backup singer was Alex Hernandez, who was our drummer in Halo, and he had a very high voice, and I didn't know any male who could pull it off like he did. So I actually had my daughter do it, and she pulled it off in his range. It was funny because when I did a demo of it, I had George slow down the song so I can sing the part that she was going to sing, and then speed it up. And then when we sped it up, my pitched high voice sounded like her, which was really weird. So I sounded like a female her when my voice was pitched up. So that's what she used to work off of. And then the other songs always had the songs that Adrian, my son, sang on always had male backup. And he did a brilliant job on them. On Hell Before Sunrise, The Hunting Ground, and When I'm Called Divine. And he also sang some of the choir stuff on some of the extra tracks.
So we have one track left to go. We made it all the way to track number 10, and this is The Hunting Ground. Now, we've talked about the title came up before just a couple seconds ago, but now we're going to get a chance to listen to a clip of the final track here. You ready, Oscar, to do it?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Final track, The Hunting Ground. Here we go. All right, sorry, friends, but we're going to go ahead and stop it right there. It was just getting ready to kick in and all that.
Yeah. Keep them wanting more just when you want to hear it.
There you go.
You're gonna have to listen to it.
Now, for me, I feel like that song, at least the way it opens up, is the most cinematic. At least that's my perception. So, talk
Sergio
about
Leone or Robert Rodriguez, Western. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Was that some of the behind the concept or theme of that song?
We originally recorded that with Halo. That was in also the debut Picasso Trigger's Dead, and already had that flavor, very Spanish and flamenco. And here we took it to the next level. So we really went for it. The brilliant flamenco guitar on that is played by Santiago Sanchez, who's from Medellin, Colombia. I've never met him. It was also through the same service, Fiverr.com. He's an incredible guitarist. And then the spaghetti Western guitar was by Alex. So we combined those two things to give it that mood. George came up with some brilliant percussion on, especially in the breakdown in the middle. He played all the drums and all the percussion on this record. And then Greg played the bass on it, and my son Adrian sang backup. So I thought was a perfect closing song. Have I been showing the tarot card? So I forgot. So that's The Hunting Ground, and this is When I'm Called Divine, Stained Glass Window, and that's Flores para los Muertos.
I like that you got the cards to show from your mock-up
Yeah.
insert there for what could be the vinyl record. Hopefully it comes to fruition because it looks like a really wonderful package. And I imagine it would come in a gatefold and everything, Oscar.
It might have come in a gatefold. I also did the label, the record label itself. So here you have the 5 songs on one side and the 5 songs on the other side. If only this were the real thing.
Right. What record was that you used for the mock-up?
Oh, some old cheesy vintage old record I found in my collection. I don't remember. It wasn't a Bowie record.
Okay. Very cool. Well, it looks like it was in good condition nonetheless. So
yeah, no scratches.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could very well be the record. It certainly looks very clean. So yeah, so very cool. The insert with all the tarot cards, and again that last track, very cinematic. At any point when you were getting the different parts to put everything all together for this album, at any point did anything come your way where you were kind of thinking like, well, that's kind of not what I was going for, and maybe you asked for the part to be redone? Anything like that come up in the making of this album?
When it's funny because when in the bonus songs we have another mix of final sound where it has no drums, no bass, and no bells. It's just a string quartet, basically, an acoustic guitar and some electric guitar. And then we have two other versions of Father Whiskey. So one version is the one that George originally worked on, which initially I was kind of skeptical about because it almost sounded reggae-ish. And he was going for like a New Orleans second line version, and we did horns and put horns on it, and now it's brilliant. It sounds really great. So at first I was pushing back against it. Now I absolutely love that arrangement. So you're gonna have to get the whole recording. If you got on Bandcamp, you have to fly the full album to get the 3 bonus tracks. And then the last version of Father Whiskey was done with Tom. He arranged it in the way that I originally heard it in my mind, which is very, very much like a musical bombastic with marching drums and timpani and horns and strings and everything. So it's actually, 3 versions of Father Whiskey. But the only pushback would have been that one version, and then ended up George. He's very meticulous and fights for what he believes in, and eventually I gave in, and that song, the way it is now, sounds great. The horn version, the second line version of Father Whiskey.
I do like the fact that you included those as well. Again, maybe the vision was a little different at some points, and it kind of gives the listener the opportunity to kind of see maybe what that looked like on all sides. So
Right.
very cool. Wow. So we got through all 10 songs, and super excited for the record to come out, as I imagine you are even more pumped and ready for that. So anything else going on in terms of in anticipation of the release, or once it does come out, anything you have planned for the promotion of the album?
Well, my hope is that with the release digitally, and hopefully start getting some followers and listeners, and the video, and getting people watching it, I do want to approach independent record companies to put this out on vinyl, because that's my dream, is to have the actual record. So the 10 songs is done like a classic album, 70s album, 5 songs on each side, in about 40 to 50 minutes, in and out, done. And you've traveled through this whole thing. So I want to try to keep it to that format. So that's really the next thing, and then we'll see what happens after that. I mean, we just started the year, so anything could happen.
Right.
The last thing I thought a year ago is that I would have a record, an album right now. So
I know, because when we talked way back when, and I asked you that question, you really had no intentions
yeah,
or plans to do anything
no, I was like, oh
musical-wise.
no, I'm never gonna do music again. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. But this album has been a miracle, one miracle after another one. George being the first one. I mean, the amount of time that he's put on this record, if I had to pay for it, it would have been thousands upon thousands, because he spent long nights editing and sampling and listening and, arranging and doing several versions and sending me MP3s. What do you think of this version? What do you think of this version? And look, I added a cowboy. It's like, okay, you added a cowboy and you added something else. And it all builds up into, the brilliant way that the songs sound now. So a year ago, I didn't think I would be here doing this, but here we are.
Here we are, and it's good to connect on it. So, because this album draws from so many different themes, right, and different sounds and what have you, how would you describe the sound of this album? Because it's not like you could just say, well, this is a rock album, this is a
Right.
pop album, this is a jazz album.
Yeah.
It,
I don't know. I had that problem when I was uploading it to Bandcamp, that they ask you to put a category, and I would scroll through. I don't see my category. What is my category? Theatrical rock is the closest I could come to it, and that's not a category. So I had to kind of do sub genres. I did rock, and then I did glitter rock, and then I kind of put jazz rock, but it's not really that either. So it's that kind of thing that if you listen to, let's say, Father Whiskey first, you think, oh, it's going to be that kind of record, and then it's not. The rest of the record does not sound like that. Or you listen to King of Fright, oh, it's going to be this funky, jazzy horns and blah, 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 and soulful. Yeah, that one song, but the rest of it is not like that. So it's hard to pinpoint. So I guess album rock would be the best thing,
yeah, I've run into that situation before as well, and it can be a bit of a challenge when you are really spreading those wings and you are tapping into all kinds of different music, different sounds, different elements. It's almost impossible to pigeonhole
Yeah.
into 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 genres, because it's even more than that. So
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Bowie and you got in on Young Americans, you would think, oh, he's like this blue-eyed soul, funky record. And then by the next one, it starts veering away from that. And the one right before that was Diamond Dogs, which was not that at all. So how do you classify it? You just have to be open-minded, and just whatever the artist is trying to say, stick with them.
So it's been great having you on to tell the story of your new album. This is really very cool. Songs for the Fallen Mountain King, which, by the way, I don't recall us even talking about the title of the record. And perhaps we can shed some light real quick on how did you land with that title?
So when I did the album that came back with Sam in 2016 for Black Tape for a Blue Girl, my voice had changed, gotten a little deeper and a little gravelier. You can especially hear it on Hell Before Sunrise. And my son said, your voice kind of has like the sound of like a fallen mountain king kind of thing going. And I said, I love it. I love it. That's it. I love that title. So that's where it came from, from that one little comment.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Adrian, for the album title.
There you go. So everything has a story behind it. If you think deep enough and can remember what it is,
Right.
I feel like there's always a story to tell. So very cool. So any last plugs for the new record before we start wrapping things up?
I just want people to hear it. That's it. You can stream it. If all you do is stream it on Spotify, that's fine. I just want people to hear it. I don't expect on getting rich and famous from it, but it would be nice to, to have it out on vinyl. That's really what I'd like. So next Friday, it will be available on all formats. You can pre-order it right now on Bandcamp. You can get it Father Whiskey right now as a download. And hopefully there'll be more to come in the future. And maybe next time I'll write some all new songs instead of songs I wrote when I was 18.
Well, it's something to look forward to now that you're retired and you are back into music and art as well, right? So you got that going on for yourself. Hopefully, you will have something more in the future too. But right now, we have some time to consume this album because it's definitely an adventure and a very cool journey to go
And
on.
I deeply, deeply want to thank you for having me on, because I know I just communicated with you yesterday. And next thing I know, hey, let's do it tomorrow. It's like, okay, let's do it. So thanks for that. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my friend. It was great having you on again. And as we kind of wrap things up, I'm going to give you the last word. Any closing thoughts you want to share, Oscar? The floor is.
Just go out and listen to that record. You will be happy. Believe me. You will enjoy it.